I want to talk about the evolution to now because obviously our goal is a high-end baby portrait studio. Back in the day, you know, when I would sell $150 to a client, I would think I was absolutely making it, where now our sales averages are much, much higher, and we'll talk about that on the third day on pricing. But even though I did the tour in 2008, the baby plan tour, last year we did the follow-up tour, which is the Creative Edge Kids, and I looked at my baby plan, and even in a 4-year time, the industry has changed so much with the look and the feel of what a client's looking for that I realized even my plan in a 4-year period was really pretty outdated. So we knew we needed to kind of take it up to the next notch. Now I want to cover what a baby program is because a lot of people out there really truly aren't familiar with it. Most of us know the idea. The concept is that you're going to photograph a baby from either before birth in a pregnancy series, but more likely at birth through the first year. So that's kind of the goal with the baby plan series. The idea behind a baby plan is typically it has a low entry price, which we call a loss leader. That is a reason that a client would want to jump in and spend the money. And that's a lot of times that's the variable. Is it the right client that you're getting? But you have to choose a price point that keeps you above sort of the low sales averages, but low enough to draw people in. We're going to talk a lot about that. Usually, as I said, it includes the milestones, those different stages. A typical baby program, and I'm going to go through this, so before you write it all down, I'm going to tell you what the typical is because mine's a little different. Typically, it includes a 3-month, a 6-month, a 9-month, and a 1-year session. I do not include a 9-month, and I'm going to explain why. So typical baby plan is 3, 6, 9, and 12. And the goal is that you're going to provide a product to the client after the baby's first birthday. So the idea is there's a low entry fee. They're going to come to those sessions, and at the end of those sessions, they're going to get a product of some sort. And that's sort of the idea behind it. Now, I'm going to show you in our studio, we have 2 types of sessions. We have an associate series session, and we have a master series session. The associate sessions are photographed by my associate photographers, and then the master sessions are photographed by myself and Helen as well. So you can see in the associate session, there's a session included at 3 months, at 6 months, and at 1 year. At the end of that year, they get a custom folio that has those 3 images, the 3-month, the 6-month, and the 1-year image. And the price point for us is around $99. Now, we've tried every price point in the universe, including as low as $29 all the way up to $299. And we find that for us in our studio and our demographics, this is the number that gets people in the door at the right demographics in the door. So this is sort of our entry-level loss leader. Now, the follow-up, or the other program, is the master series. These are the sessions that myself and Helen photograph. Now, the difference is this one includes a newborn session, and we're going to talk about why that one is absolutely critical. This newborn session is any baby that is under 6 weeks old. So if a client contacts us and they've just had the baby, we will get them right away in the door, and it's complimentary. If they call us and the baby's 3 months or older, then they fall into the traditional program. But the difference is the cost of what they're doing, which photographer they want to use. So they get the newborn session, they get the session at 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year. And the difference in price is with the $99 session slide, they actually get just that folio. At this price point, for $250, they actually get a finished frame product. Now, this could be a digital composite mat or an actual real mat. It's the client's choice. And interestingly enough, more clients choose digital mats now than actual real mats, which I think is very fascinating. But but that price point, I want to make sure you understand it. That price, sessions with me are traditionally $150. This frame, if a regular client were to come in to buy it, starts at $499. So for $250, they're getting a screaming deal to come in and utilize my time. Now, the reason we price it this way is we know 2 things. When a client is coming in and they specifically are looking for me, they know who I am, maybe a friend of theirs has worked with me and says, only work with Sandy or only work with Helen, they're willing to pay a little bit more money. So that sort of separates them. We typically know that they're going to be better spenders just based on them choosing the master series. An associate series tends to be people that got a flyer, heard about us, but aren't really sure, and they're just kind of checking us out. Doesn't mean they're not great spenders. It just means that they're not as committed yet, and that's okay. We want them both. So that's sort of how we separate financially the types of spenders that we're going to have. Now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to break down the actual milestones. of the series, because I want to make sure you understand the ages and stages. Every one of these ages comes with an almost exact copy. Every 3-month-old that comes in is going to act the same way and do the same type of images. Every 6-month is probably going to be the same way. I mean, there's variations we'll talk about, but it becomes a formula, and that's okay. I'm not saying become a cookie cutter. I'm just saying that, you know, no matter what you do with a 3-month-old, you are never going to get them to sit up. It's just not going to happen. So you have to know to work around that, and we're going to cover that later as well. So I'm going to go all the way back to maternity sessions, because in a perfect world, we would actually get everybody in when they were pregnant. Now, later, we're going to talk about pregnancy and how to sell a pregnancy session, because that's always a question, is how much, you know, most people don't buy a lot from that session. So we're going to try to teach you how to maximize that. But right now, we're just looking at them as milestones. So in my studio, we don't offer the maternity session as part of the baby program, because we know that they're not going to spend a lot of money, and it does take us time. We do offer a discount if they contact us before the baby is born. If my session fee is normally $150 for this type of work, it's $75. So it's about, you know, they get a half-price discount on the session. We know that a maternity session actually is our beginning point of building that relationship. We know that if we can get them in when they're pregnant, they're probably going to stay with us the rest of that child's life if we do our jobs well. So the sooner we get to them, the better. So it's worth it. But more than anything, our goal with the pregnancy session is to book the newborn session. And that is the best session. It is the most profitable session in the entire series, is the newborn session when the baby is under 6 weeks. So let's talk about that session. Now, we call it the Madonna session, mother baby, father baby. We typically always enlist the parents to be in the session, which later on we'll talk through how we actually get them to do that. Because we know we can get a lot more poses out of that by having their hands and their faces and their lips and things like that. This is absolutely the most important session, because our sales averages on a newborn session are 3 times higher than they are on any other session that we have. So we want to get them in. And the honest truth is, the younger the baby is, the higher the sale is, period. Now, we figured that out because all those of you who have children, you know this already, but when you have a baby, especially your first baby, it's honestly, you bring them home and it's like watching TV. You could literally watch that newborn do nothing for hours on end with tears in your eyes, as if it were the most emotional story you've ever heard in your life. And it's absolutely breathtaking. Now, there's that window there where you're going through this emotional high and low. Having a baby is terrifying and the most amazing thing in the same sentence. So it's pretty powerful. So imagine you come home as a parent and you're so connected and you feel so overwhelmed, and you take that baby within 5 or 6 days to a studio, and now they've captured those tiny little hands and the features and the ears and the lips and all of these things. And you come in for that sales session, and all of a sudden you're sitting in this beautiful room and they're projecting these images, and you see your baby 70 inches big and you're just blown away. It's a very emotional experience. Now, clients in that stage tend to spend very well. Now, fast forward it. Let's say we don't get them in for the newborn session, and all of a sudden they are, they're here at 3 months or 4 months is the first time they see it. Don't get me wrong, they still love the baby. You still love your baby, right? The difference is they've been without sleep for 3 months, they've been paying for diapers, they've been paying for bottles, they literally are at wit's end, they're dealing with things they've never dealt with, and emotionally they have gone a different direction. The love is still there, but financially they're going, okay, let's just do this. I'm tired, let's go home, I haven't slept. It truly turns out that way. Now, the question is, are we taking advantage of people, though? I don't believe so, because I will tell you this, we will never oversell a client ever. If a client walks in on a newborn session and they are so enamored that they're trying to buy 3 30 by 40s of the baby, the hands, the feet, we will actually stop them. We will turn to them and say, you know what? As much as you love these, we would love to have you have them all. You've got a full year you're going to be working with us. Perhaps an album or some other. We'll redirect them. We will not let people overspend. Albums started around $2,000 too, so we will let them spend, but I want you to know it's not a matter of taking advantage of people. It's educating people and helping them understand what it is they really need from that session. Every session has things that I want clients to have because they're so specific to that time in that baby's life, and I'm never going to let somebody go too crazy. They do, but they're always educated. So if they choose to spend thousands of dollars, I know that it's not because I'm taking advantage of them. So understand this is the key session. Now, back to the pregnancy, the reason the pregnancy session becomes so important is I then at that time I have the opportunity to explain to that client exactly how how and when they need to book that session. So while I'm photographing their belly, I can tell them, and this is important, I will tell them, what I'd like you to do is book your newborn session approximately 5 to 7 days after your due date. Now that's important because when I tell them that, what that means is if the baby comes early, the baby's going to be no more than 2 weeks old, and if the baby's right on time, the baby's going to be 5 to 10 days old, which is what I'm really looking for. That's an incredible time. And later on, we're going to talk about why having a 5-day-old absolutely is 10 times better than having a 10-day-old, which is 10 times better than having a 20-day-old. It really is that important. A 5-day-old literally is like butter. They sleep the entire time. All those amazing shots, the things that you guys want me to teach you, the younger the baby, the easier that is. So the pregnancy session allows me to actually get them to book that session at the right time so that by the time you have a baby, you're too overwhelmed and you're not going to remember that. This actually makes that happen.
Sandy, there's quite a few people in the internet. They're wondering when you pre-book those sessions, and especially like the 3, 6, and 1 year sessions together, are you asking for the money up front? Do you take a deposit? Is it due at the end? And
it is due up front. At $99 to $250, we do collect the entire payment. And there is no refund if they end up halfway through moving to Kentucky. There's no refund because the price point is already so low, but we would, let's say they were able to do the 3-month and the 6-month session, we would give them those 2 images for what they invested, and we don't have a problem with that. But you do have to capture the money in advance, otherwise there's no commitment, and without a financial commitment, you will have a lot of no-shows. That's why it's important to never give this program really away for free, because you will never have the commitment that you need to get them through. So good
that
question.
Completely makes sense. Thank you.
So another question, or should we go?
Yeah, and so that from A Hedges was, so is that $250 price for each session over the year or for all sessions?
Oh, great question. Thank you. The question was it for 250? Was the 250 for all of the sessions or just each one? It is for the entire series, and that's why it's called a loss leader. That's why it's the best deal, because you cannot come to our studio for that kind of price. It's the only thing that is that low of a price point. So that is a very good question.
And I'm sure we'll be getting to this, but JMPNY, do you find that with such a low session fee that your clients get thrown back when you explain your products prices?
A very good question, because when a client actually, and I'm so sorry, I'm so used to repeating questions in an audience, so when a client, when they actually come in for the session, every single session that I do, we require a pre-consultation. So when they call on that price point, we're going to invite them in to sit and talk to them about that, these series of sessions. So once they come in, we absolutely address pricing. Day 3, we're going to cover that in detail, but I'm proud of my pricing, and we want them to know the pricing, because if they come in seeing $250 and then they come in and they see the pricing and it's out of their range, we can end that relationship there, and that's okay, because I would rather not waste their time and waste our time. And more than anything, I would rather not have them do a beautiful session and then not be able to have anything from it. That breaks my heart. So absolutely, we address that beforehand. Do keep in mind, and we'll cover this in pricing, that the baby price list is our least expensive price as well. So what we're doing is we're sort of molding our clients. They have a lower price point that we start them with, so that there's a comfort zone there, and then once that baby crosses over to 1, we hope we've won the relationship to where the investment, they would consider continuing investing in the higher price list.
So your loss leader is not just...
Exactly, it's not just the entry, there is also a price break difference, and we're going to cover that in great detail as well, so thank you.
Anything?
Good? You guys just kick me when you're ready. Very good. Okay, so that's the first. Now remember that in my program, this is complimentary with the Master Series if they get in before 6 weeks. After 6 weeks comes the 3-month series. Now at 3 months, there are milestones that every baby has, and these are the markers that you're looking to photograph. A 3-month-old should be able to lift their head up. She does know her parents. They can be a little bit clingy, usually not too bad. And they're definitely on a schedule at that point. They eat at a certain time, they go to the bathroom at a certain time, they are ornery at a certain time, they're happy at a certain time, and it's very hard when you're scheduling. Usually we schedule the next appointment the day the baby, if we're doing a 3-month session, we're gonna schedule the 6-month session while they're standing in the room. It's hard to know what the baby's schedule is going to be. And we tell clients, if you need to change that, please do, because a baby that's supposed to be napping is not a happy baby. Now, I book about 6 months in advance, so that gets a little tricky, but we always try to help our clients out. But ultimately, we tell them it's better for you to book now, even though you don't know her schedule, because we will have nothing else later. So take it now, and then we can work with you at that point. So that's really the milestones. Now, at this I lost my clicker, hold on, there we go. There are lots of, in the milestones, there are favorite poses. Like I said, the real key milestone is lifting their head. But if a baby can't lift their head, it really makes the job hard. So what we tell our parents, actually, even though we say the milestones are 3, 6, and 1 year, we actually book them at 4 months, 7 months, and 13 months if possible. Because at 4 months, they almost always can lift their head. At 7 months, they can almost always sit up. And at 13 months, they can almost always walk. So understand that parents get kind of freaky about those exact numbers, and we have to sort of educate them and say, you know what, if you wait, you're going to have a better session. I'm going to be able to give you a lot more. So the real milestone, the key for that first series is that they can lift their head. But the real thing is, what do you do with a 3-month-old? This is why most of you are here. Is like, just Velcro walls actually are awesome. If you just little suits, because you can get a lot of poses out of that, honestly. But since we can't legally do Velcro walls anymore, you have to be creative. You cannot, I mean, honestly, it's a tough call. And so our goal is to find unique poses and tools that we use to make this stuff happen. One of my very favorite poses at 3 months is to actually get up on a ladder and stand over the baby and actually photograph them. Now in my studio, we have big camera stands and there are safety issues there, and I'm going to cover them tomorrow. And speaking of which, I'll need a ladder tomorrow, and I just realized, but that's going to be important. But you know, these are showstoppers. This is what the local chain studio cannot do. They're not set up to do stuff like this. So this is what we're really looking to do, and the magic that we're looking for. These are formulated poses, though. I know every 3-month-old that walks in, I'm probably going to do A, B, C, D, and then try 1 or 2 creative things as well. But I'm going to always go for the sellable images first, because that's what we do. Is, you know, we sell portraiture. So this is a favorite pose, and it's one that's very easily done. We're going to do this one tomorrow for sure, and I think you'll see. Again, safety is the issue. If you're going to hold a camera over a baby on a ladder, have a strap, have support, and we'll cover that as well. The most important thing I want everybody to take out of the baby milestones is shooting for product lines. The reason, remember I told you when I was a poor baby photographer, and how did I take it from a sales averages of around $100 to my current baby sales, like a newborn session, sales average is just under $3,000. So how did we take that? And in not very many years, we're talking from 2008, how did I do that? And what happened is I started to understand the value of product lines, of shooting for a product. I know that every 3-month-old or newborn that walks in, the first time I see them, I'm absolutely going to photograph their hands, their feet, and their face, period. Because that will always sell as a wall collection. I can sell it as big as a 40 by 40, 3 40 by 40s, or as small as 3 5 by 5s in a frame, but it will sell every time. It will only sell if you present it to the client, done and finished and shown, and we're going to talk to you about that as well, but later. But understand that there are certain things that when I walk in a room, I'll always photograph them because I know that they're the product line. This frame right here, as I mentioned earlier, when a client buys this frame with glass and a mat and everything you see here, they start at around $399. So if I know a client's typically going to buy a package at $400 or $500, and they're most likely going to buy something like this, we've now taken a $300 sale to a $900 sale just by shooting for it. So product lines are very, very important. Now at 6 months, the baby's sitting up, but you have to keep mom very close. Even at 7 months, every mom that tells you, oh, he's fine, he's really got a strong back, that's the child that's going to hit the floor. I promise you, for sure, for sure. So every image you will ever see of a child in that age range that is sitting up, I guarantee you mom is less than a foot away. She is right there. She is on guard. Now, I do say this, so I'm going to explain it because it's a personality thing too, so I want you to be careful how you say this. But every session I do, I have a set of rules, and we'll cover those later, on how a session, like what's going to happen. And before I start, I'll turn to mom and I'll say, okay, now here's the deal. Your baby is 6.5 months old. She can sit up, but she's not totally stable. And even if you think she's stable, it's very easy to fall over. Now, I want you to do 2 things. Number 1, it's your responsibility to keep track of her. I'm going to be running around at my camera, climbing things, doing all kinds of things, making a lot of noise. Whatever you do, do not take your eyes off your daughter. It is your responsibility. Now, I want to remind you of something. If she tips over and hits her head, that is a hardwood floor. It's going to hurt, and it's going to be your fault. And I say that. Now, I know you're all like, what? But I say it. And then I put a big smile on my face and I say, I'm just kidding, but I'm not kidding. Honestly, if she falls, she's going to get hurt and the session's going to be over. Now, you understand why I just did that, right? We just call that the power play. We go in and scare them, and then we put that pretty smile on our face. We say, just kidding. Only in our heads we're going, we're not kidding. Seriously, this is not a joke. But what happens is we startle mom or dad, and we make them go, excuse me? And then we say, just kidding, seriously though, don't take your eyes off. And we've got our message. Do you know where that actually came from? I had a session years and years ago. This is how you learn, where I had a mom who absolutely, no matter what I said, would not keep her eyes on the baby. And I knew this baby was gonna fall off the chair. I knew, you know how you have that intuition? I knew it was gonna happen. And finally, out of sheer terror, I turned to her and I said, look, I'm gonna stop photographing this right now because if she falls, it's your fault. And the mom turned and looked at me like, excuse me? And I was like, ooh, I felt it, like she scared me. And then I did that. That was my first, just kidding, but I'm not. But you know what? She never took her eyes off the baby after that. So I learned, okay, there's something about being confident and about telling somebody what they really need to do. And since then, I do it every day, all day, and I don't offend people, and I smile, and they laugh. But I don't have parents that won't keep their eyes on the baby. So mom is always close. Later on, we're gonna show you how if the baby cannot sit up, how we do shoot to digitally remove an arm. And we prefer not to do that. We are absolutely not fix it in Photoshop people, but safety is our #1 priority. And if we have to get a shot, I'd rather do Photoshop than take serious risks. I love this age. We always say they're chubby and bubbly just because they are little fatties. And this is a good time to get the little naked shots and all the little bottom shots because, you know, by the time they're like 16, 17, it's not gonna happen, so. We hope. Or we're going to jail, one of the two, so not willing to take that risk. So it's a good time. Favorite poses, same thing, I'm on the ladder all of the time because when I'm up there, it's a totally different angle. It's things that people can't get. It changes the shape and the perspective and the compression, and that's what I'm looking for, is magical shots that nobody else is doing. So get that ladder, be careful, practice on a doll. This is also a great age to capture features. Those eyelashes are incredible, the little chubby noses, the cheeks are absolutely as fat as they're gonna get. So this is another good time to really focus on the feature and get in there and really capture that because parents love those. And again, the naked bottoms. You know, this is a great and safe and appropriate age to show off those little baby bums, and you know, parents eat this stuff up. Collections like that. You'll meet Helen later, who's behind stage. Helen and I have worked together for about 7 years, so she's just an ace shooter, and she is the dynamo when it comes to little sets and building this, and she outsells me 10 to 1 because she loves doing this, and I'll explain later why I'm more simplistic and like just a real basic frame. But when I see her selling frame after frame after frame of cute little series of babies in bowls and baskets and all this stuff, it drives me crazy because I know that there's something there, you know, there's something there on the financial side of it as well. Always shooting for product lines, same thing applies at 6 months. You know, this is a great age once they're sitting up that they're tactile, they're touching things. So creating series of a little girl holding a flower or smelling a flower, looking out the window, all of a sudden you've got a framed piece there. Now we show those in the sales room so that when the client comes in, and I will explain it, and I'm sorry I say that a lot, but I just want to make sure so they don't have to ask questions, that I will explain it later exactly how we show them in the sales room before, you know, when the client comes in for that first presentation. At 9 months, now remember, this is a session that I do not have in my series. The original baby plan series that I had, the Watch Me Grow program, we did have a 9-month session. When I did the numbers, I realized this had the lowest sales average there was. We made very little money because babies, honestly, between 6 months and 1 year almost change, I mean, very, very little. There's a dynamic change between 6 months and 1 year, but between 9 months and 1 year, there's almost no change. So at that age, the milestone is that they should be standing with support. They might be walking, but there's really not that much change, and the sales averages were just too low. So I pulled it out of the program. Now, I did have some moms that had been way back in the years with who are still having babies, who wanted the 9 months. We just made it an add-on charge. So yes, we still do a 9-month session. It's a small fee to add that session into it because the fee is covering not just the session, which we're not really concerned about, it's covering that additional space in the frame or the folio. Does that make sense? There is a cost there. So you can add on and charge for it. No matter what, we're still shooting for product lines. So this is one that we typically do at 6 months, but it works well at 9 months as well. We call this a 9-up. And these are actually some of all these templates I'm showing you, these are going to be some of the giveaways that we're going to be giving away on Facebook as well. So keep that in mind. But this 9-up template is just, I mean, this was literally, I was just playing in Photoshop, and this is years ago. We're laying out pictures, and it is an incredibly popular item. And these sell as large wall portraits. So again, if I shoot for this and I show this in the sales room, people cannot walk away from it, and that's a $400 to $600 purchase right there. So that's how I'm pushing those sales averages up. I was going to say one more thing on that, but I can't remember. So just again, keep in mind that we're shooting for product lines always. Oh, I know what it was. Back to that slide. With the product lines, I pulled the 9-month session, but when I taught Bellies and Babies, I had somebody come up to me and they said, well, I have an idea for the 9-month session. What if you did like a special grandparent session where the 9 months is like grandpa and grandma come in and you do a special session with them. Now, I haven't incorporated it, but I sat and thought about it and I thought that's genius, because who's paying for those pictures? That's an entirely different sale. So just keep that in mind. There's always a way to improve or to make things work. So when I say I don't do it, doesn't mean you don't have to do it. It means evolve into it. Yes?
A quick question from C. Surskin is, for the product lines, do you have the final product ready there for them to take, or is it a digital JPEG that you're showing them?
We are showing them a slideshow, and there is a digital JPEG in the slideshow. However, we have the brand new Canon Pixma Pro 1. How to get all that in one word. And we actually have had Canon printers for years. And for certain clients, we will actually pre-produce this, frame it, and have it on an easel hidden. And when a client sits down and they see their slideshow and then we pull that off, it is a showstopper. So, but we select those clients based on their spending habits, and we know they're not going to walk out without taking that with them. But we do not pre-print anything for clients. We don't spec print, because obviously if they don't buy it, you've then taken a loss right out of the gate. Does that work?
Yes.
Cool.
And just a quick question, how long are your sessions?
That is a great question. Originally, my sessions were 30 minutes years ago, then 45. My staff took me up to an hour, and now they've taken me to an hour and 15 minutes. My shooting style is extremely fast. A typical, my speaking style, shooting style, and lifestyle. I do everything big and loud. But typically a session, although I'm given an hour and 15 minutes, typically my actual shooting time is about 20 to 28 minutes, literally. Now, everything, again, I've been photographing babies for so many years, and I kind of know, it doesn't mean that I don't ever want anyone to think I'm a machine. I also thank you for asking, I only work 4 days a week, and I only photograph 4 sessions a day. So keep that in mind as well, as I've now cut back quite a bit. I make more money because of our sales concepts, but I certainly do not shoot at the level. I was shooting 13 a day, 6 days a week, 8, 9, 10, 12 years ago. So keep that in mind. That's an evolution process. But typical session, I have an hour and 15 minutes. They gave me that so that 2 things. If I need it, if I'm having trouble, a baby's upset or tired, I have that time. And it also gives me download time and a quick edit time, so I can get a little ahead of the curve. So that's where we are at now. My goal before the end of the show is to teach you how many of you guys would like to be able to photograph a newborn session guaranteed in 20 minutes with incredible sellable images. Anybody? Good. That's why you're here. At the end of this show, that was what I was most known for. There are 5 poses that I'm going to teach you. They're very fluid poses that I'm going to teach you that are going to get you to that point. So our theory behind the shooting is get the session in 20 minutes. And then if you have time, do the magical, what we call miracle shots, those amazing little baby shots. But if it doesn't happen, the baby falls apart, you've got a strong sale, and that's how we do this. So Helen, on the other hand, you'll meet her tomorrow. She is the set designer. She takes she has an hour and a half. She takes every single minute before the child comes in. If it's a 3-month-old baby boy, she will literally line up 15 ideas, and I'm not kidding you, have them all out. Go through them with the parent, and they will select their favorites. I'm completely opposite. They walk in, I look at the baby, and I go, you look like this, you're going on this, you know. But it's just, and we both sell well, but it's just a matter of style. So there's really no right answer there. Okay, we have 5 minutes, so I'm going to just finish up with just a couple. We're going to finish up this series here. The 1-year stage, at this point they're standing, they might need support still. So chairs, having things for them to hold on to is a good idea. They're very busy. They're going to be moving at all times, and that's something that we'll talk about as well, is just how to manage and stop and capture their attention. This age, they can be very clingy. They now know very much who mom and dad are, and they know strangers, and they're concerned about separation. So we're going to talk about separation and how to get a child away from the parent as well. Now, the key really to me at the 1 year, this is the second highest sales average, by the way. The newborn is the number one. The second biggest sales average you're going to have is that first birthday. That's a huge milestone for parents. So the first steps are really critical to that success. So with that, you want to make sure the baby can take their first step. Now, you will have a few parents out there who are absolutely adamant that she turned 1 this day and I have to be here this day. And they're out there, and we love them, bless their hearts. But usually that's the first child syndrome, and by the second and third child, they're like, I'm just lucky to be here. So you got to work with those first-time moms. But first steps are important to me. So at the 6-month session, I am counseling the parents and saying, I know, what's her birthday? If it's January 15th, I would really recommend you book your session February 15th, because that extra month will give you so many more poses. If she's walking, it's going to be so amazing. And most moms will say, isn't that bad if they're walking? And I tell them, it's fast and crazy, but it's worth it. I would rather have a busy child running around capturing 1 in 10 shots than have a baby holding onto a chair, because that's so much like what we've already done. So that first step is really important, and for us, we really try to push people towards that later time. This is also the age where, although we dress them up all throughout the ages, now we can play dress-ups. We can really get into the fantasies, the fairies, the cowboys, the angels, all that fun stuff. And it's just the beginning point where a baby starts to feel, they're certainly, understand at 1 year old, a baby can completely understand what you're saying. They absolutely understand every word you're saying. They just cannot communicate back with you. And that's where people struggle, is they talk to babies between the ages of 1 and 18 months like they're babies. And in reality, if you just slow down and speak to them, they can understand you. They just cannot verbalize what they're thinking. And frankly, they don't want to do what you want them to do anyway, so it doesn't feel like they know what you're talking about. So dress up is really fun. And you can even see a 1 to 18-month-old little girl who feels pretty in a dress. You can see that she knows she's a girl. And little boys who, give them certain toys, little cars and things like that, and all of a sudden they become little boys. So this is where we start to see that initial deciding who they're going to be, and it's kind of fun to find and to utilize sets that work with that. Product lines are awesome. I know I'm going to beat you guys up over this one, but we are going to sell. This is what we're doing. If you're going to walk in that room, you're going to capitalize that time. And why are we going to capitalize that time? Not because we want more money. What do we want more? We want more time. We want to go home. And if we can maximize that sale, we're going to be going home. So this product, I want to explain this, because this is also some of the fun ones we're going to give away. If you go tell us what you think on my Facebook page. This product line literally came out of my original baby program. It was white paper backgrounds to the end of time. And so I would get these 1-year-olds running around on a white paper background, and I could never figure out, how do you sell that? So I happened to be at an airport, and I was laying some out, and I cropped them into this long, skinny pattern. And I kind of drew this out, and I sent it to my image artist, Erin, and I said, can you make me something like this? And so she made it, and we called it Baby Steps. And this is the number 2 seller in the baby program as far as for the 1-year birthday. This, in a framed collection, starts at the $3.99 to $4.99 range, and everybody buys it. And so, of course, we refined it and added color backgrounds and made it a lot better. But this is, again, one of those products where if you shoot it, you're going to sell it. And so I want to maximize it. This product is only outsold by this product, which is the baby's first birthday. Now, I always get flack for this one, because I have a lot of photographers that will say, why would you do that? That is such a mess. It's such a disaster. We photograph this at the end of the session. That's the last thing they do. The parents bring the cake, and we tell them we're going to get everything we need, and then this is how this goes. This session takes no more than maybe 4.5 minutes. You need to be very prepared. We have towels. We have cleanup supplies right there. We actually put a big sink in so the babies can be washed in the sink. When I worked out of my house, they went right to the tub. I mean, it was a family-friendly place. It is messy. Keep in mind, too, that this baby did not do this. Mom literally is the one. I'm coaching her, saying, okay, now smash the cake. Okay, now put some on his tummy. Okay, now put some on his face. About the time you put it on the face, they're mad at you. And usually you end up somewhere like this. But it's a great series. And I don't have to pay for the therapy later, so it works well for me. But it's worth it. Somebody actually raised their hand in an audience and said, why would you do that? That's such a mess. And I said, every time somebody walks in my studio with a cake, I go, $499 every time. If they've taken the time to bring that cake in, they're absolutely buying that panel. For sure, they know about it, they want it, so it's absolutely worth my time to do that. And I usually teach that if you do it on the big white paper rolls, you just throw the paper away. And I'll explain later why this is actually natural light, and this was a video series I'm gonna actually show you later today. This is the final product, as you saw from the original one. This is a baby folio. We use Bay Photo. That's my lab. Love them. Shout out to them. You can see we've got the 3-month, the 6-month, and the 1 year, and that would be the final associates. And of course, mine would be a final framed product. And they do not get the product until they complete the program. And the most important thing, note that we'll end on, is the entire idea behind this program is that that client is going to bring their precious baby in and they're going to photograph them for an entire year. There is absolutely no way that client is going to wait until that baby is 1 year old to have a portrait of that baby. So the point is they're going to buy things along the way. They're going to invest in each of those sessions and hopefully invest really well if you're shooting for those product lines, and you're going to have a great baby program. So that's kind of the goal there.